Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is a UFLTV interview. My name is Braxton, and I'm here with. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Jerren, and I'm the owner of Turnkey Locksmith.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for uh, coming on. I have a couple of questions for you, Jerren.
Okay.
So let's hop into those. The first question I have is in Utah, how often do you get calls from people who are separating or divorcing?
It is fairly often, I would say. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody wants
Yeah.
to go through a divorce, but it's kind of a regular thing that we have, I'd say. It doesn't happen obviously every day, but if I had to pinpoint it to where I know where a divorce is happening, it might be like 5 to 10 times a month, maybe. It just depends. So,
Okay.
um, yeah.
Yeah. And what usually kind of prompts those calls? Do they call and say, "Hey, I'm really scared. I had an argument with
Yeah.
my significant other, and I'm really angry, so I'm kicking him out of the house, and I need to change the locks." Or, do you get something as official as a court order?
If yeah, especially if it needs to, absolutely. A lot of times I can like it's really weird. I've been doing this now for almost 14 years. So it's been a while. From the phone call, I can kind of tell from the person's voice or like how they're acting, kind of what's happening. It's almost like I've got a sixth sense.
Yeah.
It's very strange, but um a lot of people don't openly like tell me, which is interesting, I think. And some people do. They just say like, "Hey, I need my locks changed. I'm a little nervous, my husband or whoever might come back." Um, and like I said, a lot of times in the reverse of that, they don't even tell us. They just said, "Hey, I need my locks changed," and we don't even think any twice of it and go help them out. But when they do tell us though, there can be a yeah, I got to be kind of careful as a locksmith to know when to do it and how to do it right. So, sorry, that answer your question, I hope, as far
Yeah.
as
No, and when somebody tells you, "Hey, I need my locks changed. I'm getting divorced," or
uh,
like, "I need to be let back into my house. My spouse locked me out." What is normally your first question back to them?
first question, I would say over the phone is do you have like possession of the home or do you have a current key to the house? And like majority of the time, like I'd say almost every time I've ever had, people are usually very honest, I'd say for the
Yeah,
most part. Especially if they've admitted that they're going through divorce, they usually have some sort of like paperwork to prove it, or they'll tell me outright to say, "Hey, I want to lock out my husband or my wife. Can we change my locks?" You know. But if the spidey sense is tingling, so to speak, where I have a something's up, I'll usually probe a little bit more into the conversation based off the phone
yeah,
call first thing, because I don't want to get there and find out that the husband's or the wife is or whoever is down the street watching me change their locks in their home,
yeah,
locking them out basically. So I don't want to get into scenarios like that personally where it could be where I'm the bad guy, where I'm just trying to do my job and provide a service, and but I'm the one that gets hurt or involved. So I don't want that. Basically, it's
yeah. The
big.
last thing you need is an angry spouse trying to rough you up or something just because you're
Yeah,
doing your job.
exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely not what I'm looking for sure.
yeah. Is there any kind of documentation that you require before you'll change the locks on a marital home?
Yeah, definitely like a court order paperwork for the divorce. There's been a lot of weird scenarios which I can go into if you like,
Yeah,
things I've seen. I had one this is just coming back. I've done so many calls to where I have to kind of
yeah,
reflect, but there was one where the spouse was, I'll share a couple scenarios with you,
yeah,
where the spouse was confined or locked out to just the garage area. So whoever, one of the people were in the home and the rest of their stuff was in the garage, and they wanted me to they had the code to the garage, but then they wanted to get inside the house. And instantly my mind went, wait a second, this just doesn't feel right, So
yeah,
I was like, hey, you guys, I can tell. It's weird. I can promise you I can tell when something's wrong or disarray or like So I actually started probing some questions. I was like, "Are you going through a divorce by chance?" Like, I just had to be straight up with him, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Am I, you know, do you have anything to prove I can get into this home for you?" Because it just seemed really strange. He had a garage code, but he didn't have a key
Mm.
to the home, you know.
Yeah.
And at that point, I actually, he did finally tell me that he was going through divorce. And again, I could tell. Um, and I think we got some, on that call particularly, we recorded some court information. Um, Honestly, I can't remember. It's probably so long ago, but we ended up letting him in that case to where I felt comfortable enough to where there was enough documentation and paperwork involved that I actually let him into the home. So there was that scenario, and so little iffy. I had to be very careful because um, $100 rekey could turn up into a mess for me. If I
Well,
get to
yeah.
a court case, and it's like it's not worth it to me. So,
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is let somebody into a house and, find out that that actually violates like a protective order or, whatever terms of their divorce. And they're just a vindictive spouse that's there to trash the place. And I
yeah,
mean, you didn't like,
it would
you
be
didn't know, but
yeah. I would
you don't want to
feel
get
so
dragged
sick.
into that. So,
Not at all. Yeah, I would feel so sick if that happened. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I would. It's like kind of abusing my abilities and talents that I've learned over the years, and it's not good for good. That's for sure. But
yeah,
um, there's another scenario where another divorce case where the husband was in the basement and the
mhm,
wife was upstairs. So
yeah,
very awkward scenario, especially for me rolling up and
yeah,
one spouse is upstairs and one's downstairs, and the wife had me rekey her portion of the house to her key, and eventually the wife left, and the husband called me back actually to excuse me to rekey it back the way it was.
yeah,
So, but oftentimes you see that too, where you end up rekeying the same house a few different times. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what they need, you
yeah,
know,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. But yeah, you gotta be kind of careful because I don't want to, like I said, it's not worth it to me. If there's any sort of gray area or something feels off, I'm not
hmm
gonna do it. As simple as that, because it's not worth the time and money to be dragged into a mess. So
oh,
potential,
absolutely.
but
Has there ever been a time where it's felt so off and you've gotten that spider sense tingle that you're just like,
mhm.
look, until something changes or you can prove something,
Yeah,
we're not gonna do any kind of locksmithing for you.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely been a scenario too like that I can recall. But yeah, it's got to be black or white, you know.
Yeah, you
Um,
you have to know. You can't
yeah,
just go, trust me, I promise
yeah.
my wife will let me in.
Yeah, and I've
So,
I've had people tell me that too. Like, like I've got the garage code. I'm not, yeah, I just forgot my, or sometimes people unfortunately will lie to you, or they'll pretend like, hey, I just forgot my keys, simple as that. And at that point, I have to check like as much documentation as I can to where if they just don't tell me it's a divorce scenario and they just need to get inside their home, I have to start probing for like a driver's license with an address or a piece of mail with their address or
yeah,
anything I can prove that they live there, to help. What color is your toothbrush? Think of
yeah,
whatever it takes to make me feel comfortable to let them inside the home. So we try to make it as, like I said, black and white as possible. That way there's
yeah,
no gray area in between there. So,
yeah. And if there's no court order, say like somebody has just filed for divorce, but there's no court order yet, there's nothing really official that says that they can't be there. Does that stop you from doing any of your locksmithing services?
I think that's usually in like the very early stages, where like somebody
Hmm.
have just kicked someone out like the night before, type of
Yeah,
thing. Um, Honestly, at that point, I don't really probe a ton, to be quite frank with you. Because sometimes getting the locks changed might be like a form of like embarrassment. Someone might be embarrassed that like they're getting evicted, whatever it is. I don't know, I have
Yeah,
trouble with it.
the last thing you want to do is publicly shame somebody and
Yeah,
say, "Oh, your girlfriend or your wife kicked you out of your house, threw you out on the street, and you got to go sleep at
right.
your buddy's house." Like they
Yeah,
might patch things up. Like you can't tell whether or not, how serious somebody is to go all the way.
yeah.
So,
No, absolutely. You're exactly right with that. Yeah, so I got to be kind of careful with that. But usually, if they have possession of the home already and
mhm.
have an existing key to their locks and they're in there, I personally feel comfortable changing them for them, even if they don't tell me or not, because they already had a key to begin with. So, but I know
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, I don't was gonna go down an avenue, but but yeah, that's
No.
usually how I approach that. Just
Okay. Do you change your approach if somebody presents like a protective order? Is there anything different that you need to do that you do, or do you keep it all just black and white?
for the most part, definitely try to keep it black and white for sure. But if there is documentation, a lot of times I'll have them send it to me or take
Hmm.
pictures. Again, I don't want to get into their, I don't need to see all the private information and stuff, but like if there's some sort of court order happening and it is like a lockout scenario where someone needs to be let in with permission, try to get
Hmm.
it as black and white as possible. Can I share just a quick story just
Yeah, absolutely.
related to divorce? But there was a scenario where I opened up a safe for a family. Um, the parents, unfortunately, both died in a car crash. They were a little elderly, and both of them passed away at the same time. And the family wanted access into the safe of the parents' safe. And that was one of those scenarios where I really had to dig to get a lot of documentation, a lot of different stuff to make me feel comfortable to open up the safe. So they provided a death certificate, I think a power of attorney, things like that. I think is what power of attorney, but
Yeah,
so it's a similar scenario where like I really had to pull for, because it's a big deal. If you let someone in the home and they rob the parents or there's family fights and the safe is where all the money's kept and whatever.
yeah. Last thing
So
you want is to accidentally be an accessory to like a robbery or something,
yeah,
or find
exactly.
out that actually mom and dad aren't dead; they're just out on a cruise,
Yeah,
and somebody's trying
yeah,
to get their inheritance early.
100%. Yeah, so that was a really unique scenario, which kind of, I mean, obviously not drastic as someone passing away, but I mean, similar to where I have to be kind of careful to where I pull some
Yeah,
information out to it, and make me sometimes, but tell the customers just, is there anything you can provide that makes me feel more comfortable to open up your safe or, help me out, basically make a decision.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Hey, you want the safe open. I want to open the safe for you, but you need
yeah,
to figure out a way to make this more comfortable to do because it's a
yep,
little sketchy right now.
yeah,
And like, I don't see an issue with that. I think a lot of people in your shoes would conduct themselves the same way, you know,
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because
there's
I imagine you get called out on some pretty sketchy situations where
yeah,
you're like, maybe this might be the wrong thing or it might be the right thing. And so kind of digging is really the only way you can get to, whether or not you can do your job.
for sure. No, you're exactly right with that. Yeah, there's been scenarios where like I remember can recall one more I'll share with you.
Yeah.
It's another rekey to where I just was just rekeying a house. At that point, I didn't know it was a divorce. And as I was rekeying the house, she kind of told me what was going on. And sure enough, the husband is down the street in his car watching me rekey is their home. And I
Yeah.
didn't know, yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm just doing my job rekeying, and all of a sudden, three cops show up out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I instantly knew what was happening. That the husband called the cops or something on his wife or whatever it was. Thankfully, everything was fine. The cops just ignored me and, of course, settled the whatever was happening. Um, but at that point, I instantly
Yeah.
knew I was like, "Oh, this is it's not so much fun for me because I'm just looking to do a job, a service, just to get
Yeah.
and provide, a secure scenario. Here's your new key. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So, but
Wonderful. Um, if someone says that they feel unsafe but they don't have a court order yet, what is the responsible path forward? Do you change their locks, or do you tell them, "Hey, you need to get a court order. I don't know if you can do what you want me to do." So, how do you normally proceed in that kind of scenario?
Well, generally, like I mentioned, a lot of times people want to keep it kind of close to the vest, so to speak. They don't want to
Yeah,
share that information with me. And I honestly, I probably rekeyed a few houses to where I didn't even know what was going on, And sometimes it's just like, or they just flat out lie to me and just say, "Hey, I'm locking out a roommate," or someone took a key, or I lost my keys, or whatever. But I go off
yeah,
of like if they have possession of the home, if they have a current key, if they have a garage code, um, like I said, going back to make me feel as comfortable as we can to do this service for you. But sometimes
yeah,
they just don't even tell me, and you know, I I don't want to go guessing like, are you going through a divorce or you know what I mean? Like, what's the deal
yeah.
here? But I try not to pry too much, but at the same time, I do got to be really careful. So,
Well, yeah, absolutely. Um, as a locksmith, what is something you think people should understand about the difference between feeling unsafe and kind of having the authority to exclude somebody from their home?
yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Well, first of all, feeling unsafe, they feel like someone can get in, or if it was like an abusive situation, they want to change their locks instantly. They want to get rid of that threat more or less, I think. Um, Especially in the early stages, I'd say. What was the second part to that question? I'm sorry. It was,
So, what is the difference between just kind of feeling unsafe and actually having the authority to, kick somebody out or exclude them from the home?
um, yeah, I think it would just go back to just them feeling, safe more or less by having their locks changed. I don't know how much more to go into further into that, to be honest with you. But they call us out and they're worried that the person will come in that night, and do something
Mhm.
bad or whatever. And that's, of course, when we get called to change them. But
Yeah, and
um,
it all kind of goes back to just trying to keep it as black and white as possible, right? And
yeah,
trying to,
yeah,
make you feel as comfortable about this. Uh,
exactly. Yep, 100% it is. Yeah, you gotta be kind of careful with that.
yeah.
So,
I know you shared a story where the police were called one time. Is that an often occurrence in kind of a divorce scenario? Do the police usually show up, while you're on the job, or are they usually there before you get there?
a little bit of both. Yeah, I've had plenty of calls where, like a lot of calls where that happens actually. Sometimes the police get to know us pretty good in good ways.
Yeah, yeah. You
That
know,
way.
kind of community relations.
Yeah, like for example, I used to live in Eagle Mountain, and
Hmm.
I knew a lot of the sheriffs out there, the deputies and things. They'd known me personally, and because we would do evictions and um, just divorce scenarios like this all the time, and I'd be like, "Hey, Randy, what's going
Yeah,
on?" You know, but in a good way. It's good to know the cops, I guess. But um, that does happen though, to where like I said, you're just in the middle of a job, and all of a sudden the police show up, and you're like, "Well, all right, I know this turned into this is a divorce or
yeah,
something
yeah,
on. I don't want to
yeah,
instantly go to divorce, but
yeah. The
uh,
situation has expanded, and now
yeah,
it's kind of gone beyond just a service call.
yeah,
So
and like I think every single time, as a matter of fact, the cops just kind of ignore me and just handle the problem between whatever is happening. So, but it's I just usually stay and ask him, "Did you need anything else from me, or can I go?" Or
yeah,
and every single time it's been, "Yep, thank you, have a good one," kind of thing.
oh,
So,
good. Yeah,
but yeah, thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't had anything bad happen yet. So where we drug into scenarios like this. So we're
yeah,
we're playing our cards, I think, right after 14 years. So
yeah, yeah. Have you ever had to, have you ever been subpoenaed to testify in court to say, like, yes, on this date and time, I changed the locks, or you know, I provided X, Y, and Z service.
Thankfully, no, I haven't really had to do that yet, which is a good thing, I'd say, to where, I mean, I'm happy
Yeah,
to share information, obviously a receipt will say a lot too, just saying like, hey, the locksmith was here on this day and we changed
yeah,
locks out, There
yeah.
was one scenario where I don't know if I can get nitty gritty with it, but where someone we is an eviction for a business and they tried to drag us into a lawsuit and didn't
Hmm.
nothing happened. So, but that was an interesting scenario. But that's really the only thing I've ever had, like I said, in that span of time to where it was someone tried to do something, thankfully.
Okay.
But yeah, we
Yeah,
try to keep it clean and honest, is the goal.
good. One final question. Is there a difference between changing the locks and rekeying? And does that distinction matter practically?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, a lot of people will they don't know that they can actually just change the key of their existing locks. So that term changing the locks is just kind of generalized, I guess, to where
Hmm.
um you can actually replace the hardware, the physical hardware itself, and swap it all out, or you just keep the existing hardware in the door and change it to a fresh key. And that oftentimes it's a lot cheaper to do that, but um I think people get that confused a lot to where, just call a locksmith, come change the locks. Let's get some new hardware, which is a bigger job than just swapping out a key. So,
Yeah, and I imagine it's a lot more expensive, and
yeah,
people don't really realize that.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm sure there's companies out there that will just swap out the locks entirely for somebody, rather than just rekeying. So,
Yeah,
generally, if the hardware is in good shape, it's always better
yeah,
to rekey. So, but
awesome.
yeah, common.
Yeah, well, that was my last question. Where can people who are going through a divorce get some locksmith services?
Yes, so we are located in Pleasant Grove, Utah, at 93 North, 2000 West. Um, and if you're curious, our phone number is 801-839-6777. We have a small team, myself and a couple of our employees that do this on a daily. And we not only
Yeah,
provide residential services, but commercial and safes and cars even. So we're happy to help though. We've been around for a while, I think now, and we enjoy what we do. So we're happy to help in any scenarios that pop up for divorce or whatever comes up people's way. Hopefully find solutions to problems. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.